What's cracking? It's your boy ClasXic, and I'm here on WSUM 91.7 FM Madison. Before the show gets started, let me say, the opinions expressed on this show do not reflect the views of WSUM, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, or its Board of Regents. That being said, I hope everyone is staying warm out there with the temperature coming in at about 11 degrees as of 3 p.m. My name is ClasXic, and you are listening to ClasXic Communication. This show is created to give college students and those within the college atmosphere a platform to engage in beneficial conversation about their various passions. This show is intentionally crafted so that guests can have a space to talk about their highest points and their lowest points within the pursuit of their passions. For today's show, I thought it would be beneficial to take a step back and put some more emphasis on the concepts that this show is founded upon. Considering that, today we'll be diving into passions in terms of hobbies, passions in terms of careers, and how they relate to each other. This show will be much more relaxed than my typical shows, and I'm hoping that the conversation will be very natural as I discuss some information that I found on the internet with my guest. And speaking of my guest, her name is Latoya Wilson, and she is also a DJ here on WSUM 91.7, and her show is Monday at
noon,
and it is titled Passion Speaks. I believe that's correct.
Yes.
Right. So, before we get into the first conversation for the day, I'm going to play a quick song, get us in the mood. And all the songs today are really cool because they kind of go along with what we're talking about. So, the first song is called Interlude by an artist named Kari. And we will be back right after that.
I swear, I will never intern again in my life. I feel more Kanye. Niggas trying to little bro me like Fonte. Yeah, man.
Intern aquarium, an aquarium full of interns. Most unpaid, never praised for their good work. Never. Boss sent me across town, pick up a package. Looney, this will know, I'll be gone till November. I got tracks to make, though I'm not Wyclef. Thought you were safe in your job, you flexing biceps. Till you get fired on the set of your movie role. Life went straight to DVD inside your cubicle. So really in the box, huh? I am not punching in the clock, none. I'm just working certain that I'll show a certain person that I can give her everything that I got.
Gotta do it for me.
Searching for a purpose, I ain't even leave the surface, cause the truth is inside of what I am not.
You.
I do not waste time on what is not true.
No.
Show me a critic who got a statue.
Yeah.
I gotta go now, I can't stay here. I'm too stressed out, count my gray hair. Maybe I'm roadkill, they want me to lay here. Got 2 part-times cause they don't even pay here. I was just trying to make the flow pop.
Yeah.
You were trying to fuck the new girl co-ops. Had an early game, I ain't making more stops. Wouldn't hand me the key, so I'm breaking more locks. No, I'm not chilling, obsessed with my plan like a villain.
Yeah.
Play piccolos on you krillins, did it all for a feeling. Music is my penicillin, the sacrifice, yes I was willing. And turning all week, you swear I do this for me. I swear I do this for free, you swear I do this for me. Boss, get them coffee, 5 sugars, extra sweet. Then passive aggressive emails cause I forgot the receipt. Man,
The receipts.
I'm off to this shit.
It's just a receipt. Like, this nigga's dying.
Instead of walking home alone at night, call SafeWalk. SafeWalk provides walking escorts to anyone on the UW campus for any reason. It's free and completely non-judgmental.
To have SafeWalk pick you up, call 262-5000. Tell the dispatcher your first name and UW ID number. If you are a guest on campus, let them know. SafeWalk is available from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. October through March and 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. April through September.
Once more, the number is 262-5000. Stay safe.
Yo, what's cracking? We are back. So, getting into the first conversation, this one is going to be about passion as a career. And I had some stuff on the internet, found some things that were on some different articles and on some blogs of sorts. And I just wanted to bring this information into this space and just see how how I felt about it and let you guys know how I felt about it and see how Latoya feels about it as well. Because we have a lot of different information that's going around, and it could be really interesting to see how people feel about these things. So the first piece of information was from Quora, which is like a Q&A style website. People talk about things and give their opinions and such. And I found this one user that strongly suggests that a passion is rooted in a true emotional personal connection, while a career is merely a paid position that you cannot put your personal emotions into. And that really struck me because they're pretty much putting passion and career on like opposite ends of the spectrum, saying a passion is something you're personally very invested in, and a career is just merely for money. It's nothing more. And I wanted to ask you, Latoya, if you agreed with this idea and this relationship between the two, or if it was kind of like not your thing.
Okay, well, I would say I really liked his definition of passion, how it's something you're emotionally connected to, because many people can see the same job or occupation or even the same thing, like let's say sewing. I can look at sewing and be like, oh, that's just something that exists. But someone else, that can be their passion because they have an emotional connection to that. And it's something that speaks to them personally. So I really like that definition of passion. But what I think, or where I think he could have went wrong or he didn't expand upon, I think his definition of a career is something it could be, but not what it should be.
Right.
I think a career shouldn't be something you just get paid for. It should be something you're passionate about. But unfortunately, in the society we live in, for so many people, it is something that they're just paid for that they don't care about. So I think he's more saying what the career nowadays is than what it actually should be.
Right, yeah. And I kind of felt the same way because I feel like in a perfect world, everybody would wake up every day as far as their career goes and go to work and love what they do and be around people that they enjoy being around, doing something that they want to do. They want to wake up, they want to go to work, they want to see the people that they're doing these things with, and they want to go home and feel content and feel happy, be able to talk to their friends and family about it and feel good about themselves. But like you were saying, in this society, this day and age, it's kind of difficult for people to get into things that they really want to do. And especially if you're in a different place and you're in a place that limits the type of opportunities. Like, for instance, me and Latoya are both from Los Angeles. So growing up in Los Angeles, it was kind of like if you wanted to do something, if you got the right exposure and you knew the right people, you could probably pull it off and do something that you want to do and make money doing it. But somewhere out in the Midwest or somewhere in the middle of the country or somewhere even in California, just somewhere that's not an urban city or a big urban city, it might be hard for people to get into things that they really want to do and be able to make money doing it, feel good about it, be surrounded by people with common interests. So I feel like this person was I feel like this person was maybe already in that situation where he's in a career and it's like, okay, well, I'm just doing this for money to support myself, support my friends, support my family, support my loved ones. But at the end of the day, if I could be doing a million other things, this probably wouldn't be what I would be doing. So that's a really interesting take on it.
Yeah, I would say, as you already said, but growing up in LA was such a blessing in so many different ways because you're able to see success in all facets of life and all facets of occupations. Like you just being able to drive the car and you're trying to get somewhere, but you go past Capitol Records and you see it, or you see the Netflix studio or you have the opportunity to explore inside of it and see, wow, this is what the entertainment industry is like. But then also you go to the doctor like everyone else and you see your doctor succeeding and being great. And you go to the dentist and you're able to go to these businesses and you see, wow, I can own a restaurant. I can also work in the entertainment field. Right. Oh, I could be a doctor if I want. And so I think really it is an amazing opportunity to be able to see success in so many different places because then once you see it, you believe yourself that you could do the same thing.
Right, yeah, and especially in Los Angeles because it's such a culturally diverse place. Mm-hmm. You see people that are successful doing things that are all races, all ethnicities, all sorts of backgrounds. So it's not limiting you to think inside of one box, just saying, okay, well, there aren't a lot of people that look like me doing this, so I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. That's not the case at all. You know, if you have to be the first one to do something, then be the first one to do that thing. Or if you're the only person in the class of a certain color, then that's just the way it's going to have to be for now. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was interesting. And also, I want to ask you if you felt like the relationship between passions and careers has changed over time. Because personally, I feel like today there's more opportunity for people to do things that they like to do than there were maybe 20 or 30 years ago. And when the sole purpose of working was to support your family. It wasn't whether you liked it or not. In a lot of households growing up, even today, there are teenagers that have to work to support their families, or they go to work for who knows how many hours, comes home and they give all the money to their parents or give all the money to their families. And do you feel like that has changed, or do you feel like that's getting better as time is going on, or do you feel like it's always going to be like, for the most part, just like a disconnect between these two?
I think you touched upon the subject of, I think it depends on the socioeconomic class you belong to. If you are from a higher up socioeconomic class, you have the resources and the ability to take some time to think for yourself and think, you know what do I want to do? What makes me happy? And pursue a career in that field. Right. But if you're someone, like you said, who has to work 15 hours a week and attend high school so they can pay for their, gives the money that they make in order to support their family and help them, I don't believe they have as much time or as much of a privilege to be able to stop and think, what can I do to make me happy, not just something that will support my family. I think for them, they need to think in terms of supporting my family, because that's what they have to do to survive. Right,
exactly. And that was almost connected to the first song. It's called Interlude by the artist named Kari. And if you listen to the song and listen to what he was saying, he was just pretty much complaining about this internship that he has as a college student, or as a fresh out of college, adult, where he just hates it, like genuinely hates getting up in the morning, going to this place and doing something that he does not want to do. Going on coffee runs when he's really supposed to be getting into the field, getting into something that he wants to do. And it was just that kind of reflection that sometimes that's going to happen too. And especially now, it's almost like society builds it up where they want you to just deal with it. They want you to get through that situation and say, okay, well, I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do, but at least I had the internship. I can still put it on my resume. Mm-hmm. And I know even for me, like this summer, I want an internship, but I really want to be doing something I want to do. I don't want to just be somewhere or working for somebody, paid or unpaid, if I'm not enjoying the experience. And that song really reflected that, and kind of reflected this whole, this is what I'm passionate about, but this is what the career is. Or this is what I majored in, but this isn't really what I want to do. There's a lot of different aspects that go into it. And it's not even to say, because people major in a variety of things, and your major doesn't really define what career you go into. We had a session last week through our scholarship program where it was saying there was just such a wide variety of careers that they had presented to us, but they were all under one major. So don't sell yourself short by thinking that the major is defining you, or thinking that this is the last choice that you have to choose your career for your life, because it's not. And
I would even say, like how you said, your major doesn't define your future career. I would also say nowadays, Sally, your major doesn't even define what you're passionate about. Because I know so many people who major in things that they're not passionate about because they think that's where the money is. Oh, yeah. So many people go into STEM fields, and not that there's anything wrong with STEM fields, but especially if you're passionate about it. If you're passionate about science, please do that, because I need you when I get sick when I'm older. But no, I know so many people who say, oh, I want to be a neurologist. Why? They make good money. I'm like, money's not, I don't know. I feel like anything can be a passion, but I don't think money itself is a passion. Maybe if you like handling money, like like you want to work in finance, that could be a passion. But money itself, I don't see that as a passion. And so saying like, oh, I'm majoring this, why? Because I want to make money. I think that's the wrong reason to major in something. Yeah. And I don't think that defines it being your major being a passion of yours.
No, yeah, I totally agree. And it was always this debate with my mother growing up, because she always wanted me to be a doctor or something, or, some STEM field. And I was like, maybe. And then I got here and I'm listening to people in their classes, what they're doing. I'm like, I hate that stuff. Like, oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. STEM is just not for me. It's just not the type of person I am. But of course it makes good money. I know I can think of a couple of my friends that are majoring in this or that. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, well, I won't have to worry about money. I won't have to worry about supporting my family. But, like, do you really want to wake up and do that every day for maybe the next 40 to 50 years?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to, though, what their mindset is from growing up. Maybe if they didn't grow up in the most financially secure place, they think, oh, well, because I'm going to be able to support my family. But if you did grow up in somewhere financially secure, that's really not a worry of yours. You don't think, am I going to be able to support my family? And that's why you have the time to think about passions in a different way, because you're like, oh, you don't really worry about money, and that is a privilege in itself to not have to worry about. Am I going to be able to support my family when I'm older?
Yeah, that is a very big privilege, very big. But our second source, Business Collective, they have a very different approach to thinking about this, and the website suggests that the key is to find the overlap between what you love to do and what people want. The opportunity to have a passion as a career lies at the point where your passion and its usefulness to others converge, where those two worlds meet. And I felt like that's a pretty good thing to think about. If you can figure out what you like to do, but also figure out how that's going to affect other people and why other people will want you to do that, then you might have yourself a situation where you can look into some different careers or even start to look at some different majors that would allow you or set you up to be pretty knowledgeable for that career or for that lifestyle that you want to live. And yeah, I felt like that was a much better comparison than the first one, although the first one could be seen as a little bit more realistic. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I know for one of my shows, I actually ended it with a quote that's just basic, but I feel like it speaks volumes, which is, it is a beautiful thing when a career and a passion come together. And I agree, like this person is saying, when you're able to merge the two into one, that's when you're most happiest and when you're able to do what you want to do and what you love to do. And that's when you wake up in the morning and you're not dreading the day. Right. So I think it's a great definition, and I think it really does, even if, like you said, the other one's more realistic to modern day world, that one should be more prevalent in the lives of people and what they should think of when they're choosing a career path. Yeah,
I definitely feel like this one makes a lot of sense too, just because, you know, if you do something and you're really passionate about it, it might not always be able to support you as much as you hope it would. Mm-hmm. You know, if you love to play the guitar, you know, you might not be able to support yourself and your family just going out and playing the guitar. But if you play the guitar and you also have a skill that allows you to interact with people and promote other people's pursuits, then you might be able to find a job where you're playing the guitar as a therapist, or you're playing the guitar with a band, or your backup. Like there's just a range of things that you can do that any person can do if they just put their mind to it and take a little step back and say, okay, well, this is what I like to do, but why does that matter to everybody else? Because if you can figure out why it matters to everybody else, you might have yourself a situation where you can start looking into things, start weighing your options, seeing where you really want to set up in life, seeing how you want to set up. And I feel like that's another big thing too that I just thought about. If you have a passion that isn't relevant to where you're at, like geographically, because somebody with a very big interest in like technology or things of that sort, they might not get a whole lot of, you know, and they might not make a very big splash in a very small city. But if you come somewhere like, you know, Silicon Valley or California, Los Angeles, Texas, New York, things of that places, you might have a lot more opportunities for you. And I feel like that's another big aspect that goes into picking careers and picking a passion that is relevant to modern society and relevant to what people want. So, yeah. Good stuff. So far we have two conflicting kind of things going on. One that suggests passion and careers are at the opposite ends of the spectrum, and another one that suggests passions and careers can overlap, and where they do is where you find what you like to do and where you find how that impacts other people and they can converge. So just a couple of different ways to look at it, but I feel like at the end of the day, I don't know. Do you think that passion would or should be over career interest?
I think, I would say passion should, for me personally. I think passion should go over your career because, like I said, if you're doing something you're really passionate about, and this is assuming you're making over the poverty line, you know? Right. Like if you are doing something you're passionate about, like you said, you're playing guitar, but you're only being able to find a few gigs here and there and you're not making enough to support yourself, well, then you might need to think about using that passion, but maybe putting it on the sideline and picking up something else you're interested in, although it may not be something you're as passionate about. Right. I think the key, though, is to make sure at the end, even if you're not pursuing your passion all the way, you're still doing something that you have interest in. Because if you do have a career that you're making a lot of money in, but you have absolutely no interest in it, you're going to be sad. You're not going to be happy, and you're not going to feel fulfilled at the end of the day. Fulfillment doesn't come with a check. It comes with satisfaction, and you're not going to be satisfied if you are doing something you don't love.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a really big part of it, because it's just like, where's that point, or like where's that line where passion and career interest, or your passion and your work, should either be equal or one should be over the other, and which way should it be? And I feel like that was a really good point. Like, if you're past the poverty line, if you can support yourself, if you're making ends meet, then you can get by. But if it's getting really rough, it might be the time where the passion needs to be your second career, maybe, or just diminish it a little bit so we can get our lives back on track, and just start thinking of ways where you can implement your passion back into your life, back into your career, and see how it goes. So that's a really interesting take on it. And that was our first conversation. Have another one coming up, and that was going to be passions in terms of hobbies, and then we'll talk a little bit about how those relate to each other. But now we're going to have another song break. This one is pretty interesting too. It's called Deeper Than Money by Logic. So I hope you like this one.
Yeah. People want to talk about what makes them happy. What really makes you happy? Tell me what makes you happy. Makes you happy, makes you sad, makes you glad. Tell me what makes you happy. People say it's money. Give me the money, all the money. If I could live forever in a day, no, I'd never fade away, but my life is not okay. I take the bus to my job, and one night I got robbed. Life is fucking up my vibe. I wish I had a lot of money, had a lot of dough, had a lot of paper, you already know. My life would be so much better with cheddar. Only work as hard as I do for vendetta. Cause my 9th grade teacher said I wouldn't be nothing. Working at minimum wage and cooking McMuffins. So I'm puffing on this green, wishing I had more money than I do. Imagine if I had more money than Erykah Badu. And so I'm all about my business. Is there anyone who witnessed? Can a brother get a witness like, what's up with it? Come and get it. Tell me now what's on your mind. I ain't talking about this you post up on your timeline. Speak to me in real time. Open up and redefine. Open up a motherfucking book for once and read a line. Somebody tell me now what done happened to society. My happiness is gone and it took with it my sobriety. They say that money cannot make you happy. Do not lie to me. Whoever said that shit was never broken wouldn't try to be. Who is you to try with me? Why you trying me? Like, now I'ma tell them what makes me happy. This is what makes me happy right here, like this. Jump up on that NPC like a boss MVP. Cook up shit that make other producers wanna envy me. Master it and set it free. Turn it into MP3. Spin that shit up in Serato. I can feel the energy. This shit is deeper than money. Deeper than money. Deeper than money. Deeper than money. This shit is deeper than money. Deeper than money. Deeper than money. You know it's deeper, honey. This shit is deeper than money. Deeper than your money, my money, they money, everybody money. Say this shit is deeper than money. Deeper than money. Deeper than money. It's deeper than money. I don't do this shit for nothing but myself. I don't do this shit for nothing but myself. I don't do this shit for nothing but myself. I don't do this shit for nothing but myself. Think I need to focus more on my health. I do. This is shit that I love. This is shit that I love. Come straight from above, off the top of the dome. Gotta get it, go home. Hella late, feeling good. Got a lot on my plate. What the f is on my mind? I just wanna rhyme. It's the type of shit I gotta do. Oh my God, what's the time? Can you feel it right now? Can you feel the whole style? It's the type of shit I gotta get it. I've been vibing out here in Malibu. Would you come through? Tell me, motherfucker, truly what it do? LOGIC, this is who I be. LAY, mad, MD, what I be? All that, go. I can feel it. I'm a fly on the wall, feeling 10 feet tall right now. This the type of shit, it's the style. It's the motherfucker style, and so I tell them, this shit is deeper than money, deeper than money, deeper than money, deeper than money. This shit is deeper than money, deeper than money, deeper than money. You know it's deeper, honey. This shit is deeper than money, deeper than your money, my money, they money, everybody money. Say this shit is deeper than money, deeper than money, deeper than money. It's deeper than money.
Space Jesus is landing at the Majestic Theater. On February 24th, he'll bring the house down with his unique alien bassline, gangster beats, and future feels.
It seems I underestimated you.
As always, WSUM will be previewing and reviewing prior to and after his arrival, so stay tuned to WSUM.org.
Hello. Sorry for that. We're back on the air. It's your boy ClasXic still here with LaToya. Sorry for that one real quick. Hey. And now we're about to get back into it. So the second conversation we got is passion in terms of hobbies. And I felt like this one could maybe apply to people a little bit more because, especially as college students, we're looking, for the most part, if you have a passion and you have something that you're really passionate about and you like to do, you're looking at it more as a hobby at the collegiate level than maybe a career. And I feel like once you break the boundary of college or break the boundary of your collegiate studies, then that's when you start to get into passions as a career or passions as staying as a hobby. But I feel like right now this is more kind of where we're at. So getting started with this, an article from livemint.com gave information that people usually mistake a hobby as a passion. To explain this, they gave the example that most people who like to read books or watch football have no true interest or belief that they should become a writer or train to be an NFL player. So given that information, can you think of some hobbies that you have that you know could never be a passion of yours? And is there a way that you distinguish that passion from the hobby that works for the majority of the time?
Yeah, okay. So I know I really like to take photos. Like, even on my last Instagram post, it was just like 4 photos. And I was like, ooh, rewind and unwind was the caption because I was going back. And I just thought it was so smart. I don't see myself ever having photography as a passion.
Okay.
But taking photos sometimes can be a hobby of mine. Like, if I'm bored, I'm like, I'll just take a photo of this and see how it looks. So I would say, like, how I distinguish between the two of a hobby and a passion is I really don't have, like, I think like the definition said before earlier what a passion is, any emotional connection to photography. Like, when I take the photos, I like them for sure. And I'm like, ooh, like, this can be really nice. This could be my wallpaper or something. But I don't think, oh, I could do this. Like, I would want to do this. Like, as a job. I don't see, like, oh, I can see myself doing this in 10 years. Like, if I just didn't take any more pictures, I feel like I wouldn't be too upset by that. So that's why how I would distinguish the two. It's a hobby because it does give me joy while doing it. But if I would step back from it and not do it, if someone said, oh, just don't take any more pictures, like, for just, like, picture purposes, I would be like, no, like, what? I would be like, okay, if that's what I got to do, then I won't do it anymore. So that's how I would distinguish the two, personally.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess a hobby of mine could be I play video games. I guess that's a pretty fair hobby. Most people have around my age group, but I don't think I could be a professional, Call of Duty player.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to be entering into any tournaments anytime soon. And I don't think I could wake up every day and feel content saying, "Oh yeah, I just spent like 5 hours playing video games all day." I couldn't do that, and I feel like that's an easy way to distinguish between a passion and a hobby. Is like, can you wake up constantly, see yourself doing this thing for hours, and be happy with it? like over and over again. And another thing is how much you spend on a hobby versus a passion. Because like I said, a hobby could be me playing video games. It took me. I just recently bought Call of Duty Black Ops 4. That came out in like last year, I think November. I just bought it because I wasn't sure if I wanted it yet or not. And I feel like if I was really passionate about it, I would have pre-ordered it. Like it would have been already in my possession. And I feel like if you're really passionate about something, the money aspect is gonna be a factor at all times, but it's not gonna be the thing that's holding you back from pursuing it. Especially if there are other means that you can go through where you don't have to spend as much money, or you can get some connections and get something for cheap, or do that or do this. I feel like with the passion, it's more like, okay, this is how much I need to get there. So what do I need to get that money? Where a hobby is like, well, do I really want to spend this money? Because I could use it doing something else. So I felt like that was a pretty good distinguisher. I guess that's a word. Yeah. And following that question, the same article insisted that a good way to really gauge how passionate you are about something is to try doing that thing for an extended amount of time to see how you feel about doing whatever it is. So the example that they used was, if you think that you are passionate about teaching, take a position as a teaching assistant or volunteer wherever you can, where you have to be in the role of a teacher, and see really how long you can find yourself enjoying what you do, enjoying that time teaching. And if that time is not very long, that's probably a hobby. It's not really a passion. And for the sake of college students listening and others, I felt like it would be very beneficial to brainstorm some ways that you can put your hobby or passion or whatever you think it might be to the test to decipher what title it should hold. And some examples, one example I have here is internships. I feel like internships are a great way if you have an interest in something and you're not too sure if you're very serious about it or if you're just slightly interested in it and it catches your attention. Get an internship or try your best to get an internship either here on your college campus. You can get one back home, see what connections you have through family, through friends, and get yourself in a position where you're doing that for an extended amount of time. Not like a couple of days. Like do it for a week, a month, a couple months, for the summer, for the winter break, and see if you can last that long and be enjoying what you're doing. And I feel like that could be really beneficial, honestly. Can you think of anything else that could?
Yeah, but one thing I also want to say about the study, like the teaching thing, also make sure what you're doing, though, is your passion. Because it really depends, like, if it's your because for teaching, you might have a passion for teaching, but not the particular demographic you volunteered to teach. If you're teaching kindergartners and you know, like, I have a passion for teaching, but young adults, and you don't like it and you can't do it for an extended period of time, maybe it's not because you don't like teaching, but because you just don't like dealing with kids. So you have to, it's just true. So if you want to teach and that's a passion of yours, you have to really, passions, you need to, if you have like we said, for passions have an emotional connection, then you can be able to go deep into it and understand the details of this passion. You need to be able to understand the passion. So if you have a passion for teaching, then you know more than just that. It's more than just teaching. Oh, I like teaching this age. You can get specific with passions. So be specific, and really, really, when you're trying to test out these passions, make sure you are in the guidelines of everything and like you're following that, so that way you don't think and you tell yourself, oh, I'm not passionate about this because I couldn't last with 15 kindergartners surrounding me always asking me stuff. Like, no, like, make sure you're specific with what you're doing. And like a way to test it out, I think a really, really great way, which you said, was internships, but then also, and like you said, internships, volunteering. If you know you have a passion for, let's say, because I said I didn't have one, photography, but you think that you do, you can always volunteer to help out at events. There's so many events, like you can go to those community centers and say, hey, I know you're holding an event for, like, I don't know, what, like some event, so many centers, like, you know, community centers, and say, can I take pictures for your event? I'll volunteer and do that. I'm sure so many of them, like, of course, because they would want someone to take pictures, but maybe they can't afford to hire a photographer, especially if they are doing something free. Like, I know so many community centers around my house would hold free events and free activities. And if you're doing that, you really don't have the money to go out and purchase a photographer. So that's one way that you can volunteer. Another way is, I know that during winter break, I went to this Netflix like internship thing. And so there was a panel, and they were talking about how, like, I don't know why photography is just the main one, but she was talking about how this girl knew a photographer. She was like, I really want to break into the photography field because this is my passion, but I don't know how. Like, I look for opportunities and they don't have any. And she said to her friend, well, because she works for Netflix as a graphic designer, and she said, well, I actually needed a photographer, and I asked you because I'm recreating for her job a blade of grass, Lily, so she needs to draw it for her graphic design. Okay. So I need someone to take a picture of grass from every angle. And I asked you, and you said you're beyond that. So another thing, if this is a real passion of yours, don't say you're beyond something. You need to take a picture of a blade of grass and get it from every angle so that way she's able to draw it.
You better take it.
You better take it, because that could have opened doors, because maybe you would have started with the blade of grass and then moved up to whatever else you need to take a picture to for her needed to do. But instead, because you think you're beyond it. So don't think, oh, I know this is a passion of mine. And then also, like, let's say someone asks you to play guitar at their kids' like play, and they need someone to play the music in the background. You're like, well, I've been playing guitar for 15 years, so that's beyond me. Well, if that's really your passion, don't say something's beyond you. Yeah. You should do it. Yeah. So,
also that. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, because I feel like I've had a couple of situations where that's happened to me, where you kind of just like get ahead of yourself, and you're like, I'm better than this. I've done this before. I've done this so many times. I no longer need to do this, and that's where the missed opportunities can really come in, because sometimes you don't even know who you're talking to. Like, it might be the head of a company that's asking you to do the smallest thing that's in your interest, and you're like, oh, well, I've been doing this, and that. They're just like, well, I just wanted to see if you were going to do it, and later down the line, you find out that they were looking for somebody to be in a highly paid position, good career. And yeah, that is a really good thing to put out there. Just make sure you're staying humble. That's the word. Just don't get too proud. Don't get too proud of yourself, and because at the end of the day, when you do stuff like that, you're just kind of selling yourself short and not allowing yourself to get all the opportunities that you could. And like you were saying earlier, I was kind of thinking about, because you were thinking about hobby versus passion and like how to distinguish it. I started to think about a person that's a fan of artists and somebody that just listens to the artist. I feel like that's another analogy that could really get into it, because if you're a fan, you know that artist, you know their music, you know their songs, you know a lot about them. But if you're just listening to the music, it's like, okay, well, y'all know a couple songs, and oh yeah, he did that with that person, and nah, man, you don't know the half of it. And there's a difference when you're talking to somebody that is a fan of an artist, and you're talking to somebody that listens to the artist. One of these guys I know, his name is Arthur. You ask Arthur about some music, he starts going crazy. Like, he knows so much about music, about modern hip hop and pop culture. And I'm like, how do you even do this? Like, the album just came out like 2 days ago. How do you know all the songs already? But that's a fan. That's a fan of music. You're just somebody that listens to music, like, oh, I didn't even know the album came out. And I feel like if you put that in terms of passions and hobbies, if you have a hobby for some, you might stay a little bit updated, but you're not too into it. But if you're passionate about it, you know the ins and outs of it. You know what's going on. You know what the updates are, and yeah, you're about that life, to say the least. But a final thing that I figured could be a good way to put a passion or hobby to the test is do research in it, especially here at UW Madison and a lot of the other top institutions around the country. There are a lot of opportunities for research, and people want students to get on their research and help them out. And research could be a really, really good opportunity, because you have to be fully invested into the research. Well, I mean, it's levels to it. There's levels to it, of course, but if you really get into some serious research about the subject or whatever you're interested in, and you're going through the research and you're just like, oh, this is kind of a lot. I don't know if I can handle this. Well, hey, I don't know if that's going to be for you. But I feel like everybody's different. Everybody has their own thing going on. Everybody has their own ways of doing what they do. So those are just a few of the things that we talked about: internships, community service / volunteer work, and research opportunities. So those seem pretty good. And the last topic we have, or last source that we had, was another one from Quora. And this one, I went to Quora because I felt like this was probably more along the lines of ordinary people, what people are really saying and what they really think. And this one person put it very simply, as a hobby is something you like to do, while a passion is something you love to do. They insisted that hobbies are very fluid and change throughout time, but passions are always consistent. And I think the example they used for hobby was like I like to play soccer now. Well, I like to play soccer 5 years ago, but now I like to cook. And that was just like a hobby of theirs. But like a passion, she said that she had grown up loving to dance, and she's never going to stop loving to dance. It's always been consistent. And I felt like that was a pretty good one too. So I want to ask you, would you agree with that standpoint, or would you conflict it with some other type of reasoning?
Well, I actually see this from two ways. Like for me personally, I've always loved to write, and I still love to write. And like I said earlier, I could give up photography. I would never give up writing. And so for me, it's something that was consistent with my life and has always stuck with me. But then I had someone recently come on and said they took a trip to where they go, Costa Rica. They took a trip to Costa Rica, and that's when they discovered that they had a passion for learning other languages, and they went to learn Spanish. And so I feel, for me, yeah, the writing was something consistent, and it's been there. I've always loved to do it, and it's been there consistently with me. But he was 50 years old when he went there, and now he's 50 with a passion for Spanish.
Oh, wow.
And he just discovered it. And
Wow.
It's like, maybe he's always had that passion within him, but it finally broke through when he was able to be around the language and it was emerged in the culture and everything.
Right.
But I do think passion is something that's like, it can not that it evolves, but it's, how do I say it? It's just, I feel like you can discover it later on in life,
Right.
what you're passionate about.
Yeah. No, yeah, I feel that. It's like what you're exposed to.
Yes.
You know, if you don't have exposure to something, then you can't know if you like it or not.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, I guess the easiest way to put that is somebody asks you if you like a type of food, and you're like, no. And they're like, have you tried it? And you say, no. It's like, well, I mean, how do you know? How do you know if you haven't tried it yet, or if you haven't experienced it? And that reminded me of this thing that we had to read in for my undergraduate research scholars seminar. And it was this TED Talk about one story, and just saying we can't base everything off of one story, because one story is going to limit what we think about something. You know, there was the speaker was African, and she came to America, and her roommate was so surprised because she could speak English as good as her, and she asked her what her favorite artist was, and she was naming pop artists, and she was like, oh my God, I'm so surprised. But that was just because she had only had one story of Africa, or what it meant to be African. And I felt like that kind of ties into it, because it's like, what are you exposed to? You don't have everything yet. And especially as college students, or even high school students, or even as adults, we don't have the opportunity to experience or be exposed to everything that we might be interested in. And that might be a good thing, because if you're interested in everything, it's kind of hard to do everything.
Yeah.
But I felt like there could possibly be a limitation within a passion, because I feel like sometimes you can only really like it, and you can only really like a passion. You can't love it. And the example I gave here was somebody that might be passionate for community service. If you're passionate about community service, you're willing to go out of your way to help other people within your community, within your neighborhood, your family, your friends. You're willing to help these people and put your priorities aside. But at the end of the day, if that's the only thing that you want to do, that's not going to get the bills paid. Yeah. And that's why I felt like it might be a limitation to how much you love or like a passion, because you can love doing what you do, but you can also not love it just as much because of the cons of it and the pros of it. You know, you go and you help people all day and you feel good about it, but you have to give up your car, you have to take the bus, you have to walk, you have to do this. And I feel like there's always pros and cons with passions, and it just kind of measures out to which one is higher. Are the cons higher? Are the pros higher? And are they going to even out at some point? Like if you keep doing community service, are you going to end up, being in charge of a community service like organization, a nonprofit organization? Like where are you going to go from there? So I feel like it's a lot of different takes on it. I don't know if you want to speak on that.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but I also think this is where you take your passion and then you also have to include some interest. Because let's say you do have a passion for community service and you know that's what I love to do, but then you also have an interest for entrepreneurship. Well, then you can make your own nonprofit, and making your own nonprofit, nonprofits, the actual company doesn't make any money, but you can have a salary with that, and you can make a salary that you can live off of. But let's say you have the passion for community service, but you don't have an entrepreneurship interest, which is like that's a lot of people, so that's fair. Well then, maybe always just volunteering your time. You're gonna have to step back, like I believe you're saying, step back from that passion, and maybe just volunteer on the weekends while you're working your other job, so that way you can still function and live in society. Exactly.
So I feel like that was pretty good conversation on that one. And as far as passions as hobbies and passions as careers go, I feel like a hobby and a career might be kind of on the opposite sides of the spectrum, and passion could be either on the far side of career, on the far side of hobby, or somewhere in the middle. I feel like passion is something that can be very fluid. It doesn't always have to be right where you want it to be or right where society might want you to think it should be. And I feel like it just goes with every person as an individual. So,
for sure.
Yeah, it's been some good conversation. We have one more song. This one's by Tyler, the Creator. That's my favorite artist. And this song is called November. And it's a pretty good song. I like listening to the song because it's just him talking about November, which is his happy place, his place to be, his place to go to. This is where he wants to be. And we have some other people at the end of the song talking about their Novembers and how they felt. So pretty good song, pretty cool song. So I'll play this for you, and then we'll get back and we'll close out this show. Let's do it.
Yeah, take me back to November. What's up? Can we go back to November? Take me back to November. Hawaiian shirts in the winter. Deep thoughts, and I'll take me back to November. What's up? What if Clinton and me over? What if who that boy is rhetorical and it is over? What if I'm hustling backwards? What if my accountant ain't paying my taxes, filling his pockets, and IRS show up asking me questions I couldn't answer because I was too busy trying to make classics? What if my music too weird for the masses, and I'm only known for tweets more than beats? Or all my day ones turning 3/4s cause of track 7. What if I get stuck? What if I got comfortable? I gotta keep it buck 50. What if I lost it all and ended up back in Ladera at them shitty apartments that's across from Bank of America? I would be hurting, writing all of these songs cause Wi-Fi wasn't working. Last year in total, I put out 2 verses of 5-7 figures since then, life's kinda perfect. Or is it really? Or is it really? You know that dilly, really, hilly, willy, tilly, silly, hold that billy, how I really right. When they can't relate them, when they start to hate them, they don't drive these cars, so what's they ultimatum? Tell me what's your November? Is it a person? Mine was the summer 06, I remember the... What if I thought the brake was the gas? What if I crashed? What if these deep thoughts was my last? Let me pull over quick and drive back to November. Take me back to November. Hawaiian shirts in the winter, cold water. Yeah, take me back to November. What's up? Can we go back to November? Take me back to November. Hawaiian shirts in the winter, deep thoughts, and I'll take me back to November. What's up?
My November was those odd feature Sundays where you just go skate all day.
My November was awesome.
My November was when I was gifted the skets in Gilbert.
My November was my brother took me to my first concert.
My November is summer 2015 when I fell in love with someone who
2014
showed me
Miami 43rd Street. Every day was November.
Take me back, 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 take me back. fine. Take me back, take me back. Take me back.
My November is right now.
I wrote a song about you, I want your opinion. Opposite of my heart rate to slow down at the ending. Cause the love that I got for you has exceeded appearance. The lyrics are, matter of fact, I'ma just call you so you can hear it. If you do answer, I'll play it to state facts. Although I already know the response you gon' say back. At that point I'll hang up, disappear and just stay back. And if you don't, I'll leave a voicemail with the playback.
Hello, no one is available to take your call.
Yo, what's cracking? It's your boy ClasXic. I'm here. Finna close up this show. It's been a really good hour. My guest LaToya did have to leave a little bit early, so it's just me, but it's only 2 minutes left, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I felt like today was really cool. And although she left, I will thank LaToya for coming on to the show and joining me today, talking about passionate hobbies, passionate careers, and how they kind of relate to each other. And before we close out, I will open it up. If you know someone with a passion that you would like to see on this show, or you can think of a passion that you would like to be featured on this show, feel free to email me at classicentertainment@gmail.com. That's ClassXicentertainment@gmail.com. All contacts will be considered. And this is the end of today's show. I felt that it was very good. I hope that it was beneficial to all of my listeners out there, and I will see you all next week. So without further ado, until then, stay classic.
If you see John Wayne, Yul Brynner, or any other deceased cowboy actor